that's my jam. I feel good.
What is the deal, Mr. Lindzon?
Just manscaping.
Yeah, how often are you manscaping these days, you think?
Twice a day.
Aggressive.
Sunrise, sunset, like the musical.
I don't think you're getting that kind of action.
All right, what's up? What are we talking about today? It's been a while. I miss it.
So I was thinking through this the other day because I keep getting asked by journalists all the time, and I see it all the time. You know, they're like, oh, Airbnb and what's the other one? And DoorDash, they just did IPOs. These tech stocks are out of control. And I'm like, these stocks aren't even tech. They're not even tech stocks. They're in the communications index. According to Koifin, they're consumer discretionaries. But either way, Standard & Poor's thinks they're communications. Either way, they're not in the tech sector. When you look at the FANG stocks, they're like, oh my God, tech. 80% of the FANG stocks aren't even technology stocks. Google and Facebook are communications. Amazon is consumer discretionaries. Netflix is also communications. So when it comes to, Apple's the only tech stock in the FANGs. So at what point is everything that uses a computer tech? Like, where's that line?
Well, I think it's a good time to look at a piece of art the first pieces of art, great artists that I collected. Nothing rings true. This is from maybe the 90s. And see that guy? It was like kind of a contemporary spoof by a great artist, Rourke Gurley, on that was the cultural world back then. You see his two Wall Street phones, and you see he has a little fucking computer in his car, and a cop's chasing him. He's got his food. See how that. Now, if you ask about tech, okay, that was technology, right? What was technology in 1990 culture? It was two of those brick phones, right? That's all the phone did, was get you into trouble, and you could call your broker, right? And half the time you'd call the operator to complain about the poor reception because it was $6 a minute, and you were trying to figure out how to scam, dial up. So basically, if you had a phone, your job was to call the operator and complain about your call to get a free call. So that was technology. Today, technology is going online and calling somebody an asshole for a stock pick they made 6 years ago. So yes, I think you're right that we've gotten a little out of hand with tech. And I think what's exciting about this market is that we're finally seeing the youngins or the retail people expand their horizons. Yeah, they don't want oil and they don't want
more so than you've ever seen, or was it like this when you were a kid and people were into the market?
It's so hard to say because my memory, I don't remember what I did yesterday. So my memory is shot.
You promised me you'd send me $100,000 yesterday is what you thought.
Well, tomorrow I'll forget. So remind me again tomorrow. So I think it's a really good point, but when you see Disney bust out to all-time highs, if you could think of a less tech company, I mean, talk about media, entertainment, of course they've got Disney Plus, which how tech is it, right? They're on other people's rails.
They own their own Netflix. It's like their own Netflix.
Is it on Google's cloud or Amazon's cloud? They don't own their own cloud. So it's like they're just hooking shit up.
And then Amazon's a consumer discretionary stock. It represents a zero weighting in the tech sector.
So what is a tech company would be your bigger question.
Right, because at the end of the day, they just group anything that uses a computer into tech, which is ridiculous.
I haven't used the word technology. I hate fintech. I call it financial services.
Straza says tech shouldn't even be a sector.
I think cloud and digital are the words that I use.
Cloud and
digital. I'm taking
all
my portfolio. Is Disney Plus digital? Absolutely. Is it a tech company? No. It's a media digital business.
What about Amazon?
Amazon's an incredible digital business. Now they are part tech company because AWS is a tech enabling
zero weighting in the tech sector.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't look up that stuff on Koifin. I look for stocks that are breaking out. And in the last month or two when we've been on, I've talked about platforms, right? The platform is the narrative. That's a very
Stitch Fix.
Word. What's that? Stitch Fix, Farfetch, Pag.
Stone.
Go pull up Stone. If you talk about the four names that I've been pimping here for about 2 months.
You're pimping hard too. You're pimping them pretty hard.
But I'm careful to
It ain't easy, I hear, pimping.
It's a bull market, and that's what I was trying to say. If this bull continues, I like to tell people that at the beginning. Now, Now it's harder, right? And so last week I was talking about, you can't pick the Stitch Fixes and Farfetches and the Pags. They shouldn't double in a month or 2 months, right? So halfway through the week, I'm like freaking out, and I'm not being bearish. I'm just like, come on, people, this is getting silly. And then the end of the week, you got Toyota, Disney, Starbucks breaking out, right? And I'm not just talking about little breakouts. Like Toyota's like a 15-year breakout.
What about Tesla? 40% in the last few months.
Right, but I mean that just breaks out every day. But
that's not tech.
And we're not talking now. I'm just saying. I'm just talking about the market. And I was getting nervous because I was getting these winners. But then you see the rotation and the breadth, and it's like no one's selling their Snapchat or Stitch Fix to buy Disney. Yet Disney broke out. Completely different business. Toyota breaks out. So like, and Tesla doesn't drop. It's not like people are taking their profits out of Tesla and saying Toyota's the next king. They're both going up. And so
it's in addition to.
Yeah. So I'm not going to stand in front of that. I'm going to get run over. People are going to get trapped at some point. But to be the first person, I'm not going to be that first person that says get out. We're not near that point. I think this market wants to get more people in, and there's not enough supply. All the DoorDash and Airbnb tell me is that the banks are still living on borrowed time. They're still not doing the right job.
Why? Could they screwed it up and left a lot of money on the table?
I hate saying screwed it up because it's hard, and the companies, they're all playing a game to get the price up. And it's hard to measure what the investor enthusiasm is, the animal spirits. So no.
Is it normal to miss by that much?
They've been doing it a lot this year, is a lot of it. And I just think the investor enthusiasm and the 25% numbers of retail and the Robinhood people and the fractional ownership people and the amount that these brands mean to people. Like the thing about Airbnb is they keep comparing it to hotels. Hotels aren't on kids' minds. It's just, how do we Airbnb? What's the zip code? Where do we want to stay? You know what I mean? So I get the valuation. I get that people are freaking out about valuations.
But are they comparable? Like, to compare today's valuations to other eras, like, it seems silly. I mean, it's not my opinion. The market's obviously laughing at all the people who try.
Airbnb could be the beginnings of Disney, right? Like, if you've got 10 hosts that can tell great stories, now they're going to build movies and content in an Airbnb cable network, which, a whole cable network for people who want to be the next Donald Trump landlords, right? So there's Airbnb people that act like Donald Trump, and there's Airbnb people that act like my house is yours and I'm going to make it a great experience. So there's, Airbnb could be a media and entertainment business but it's really just a software yield management. It's just a yield management software. And logistics companies historically have been some of the best growth companies in the world. So I look at Airbnb and DoorDash as just basic weird takes on logistics businesses.
Domino's, like Domino's?
Yeah, it could be a reverse Domino's. Why can't DoorDash buy McDonald's? I'm saying the valuations, it depends what they do with the stock, right? Like if we pull up a chart of Crocs, in 2006, the stock was like $90. And I used to write about the fact that Crocs should go out there and buy a real company that doesn't smell like condoms, but they didn't. The stock went to $2, right? Because they didn't.
Is that what they smell like?
Yeah. So they didn't, or Goodyear store, but they didn't use their $90 stock, right? They believed their own shit. And guess what? The market's changed their mind and those rubber shoes are worth $2, right? And it took them another 20 years to get the stock back up to 45. So I guess a lot of it depends, now that they are public, on what they do. The price is the price.
Okay. Where do we draw the line on, to your point, what is tech? What should be considered tech? Just Apple and Microsoft and not the others? Do they have it right? Or is that just completely wrong? Is it bogus?
Again, I just think of QQQ and SPY, right? I think of digital. When I think of the Nasdaq, I just think of digital businesses, right? There's no oil. There's no
banks.
There's no banks, correct. There's no financial companies, which could be a mistake, right? Because in a world of PayPal and Square, which aren't banks, those aren't in the Nasdaq 100. So at some level, Even the Nasdaq 100 has kind of got stuck with how they measured what's a financial company, and have missed some great companies in the Nasdaq 100. So eventually there's going to be more than 100 great digital Nasdaq and biotech type and healthcare brands, and even Nasdaq 100 will become outdated. And that could just be esports. There could be 100 esports public companies, or there could be 100 gaming public companies.
Lindzon, this 2 to 100 club, man, has this been such a great list for us.
But it's just understanding how momentum works and trying to find brands that are on their way, companies on their way to being
when they
the
graduate from small caps, they enter mid caps. This TG Therapeutics was up 45%. How many times do you hear money's been rotating out of tech? Money hasn't been rotating out of tech. Small cap tech is making all-time highs. Mid cap tech is making all-time highs.
What would be a couple of small cap names that you like right now?
I like TGTX. That's TG Therapeutics. This thing has been an absolute monster for us. It's a $3 billion company, so technically it's just into the mid-cap category, no longer the small cap, but we can't hold it against it that it's doing so well. It was a mid-cap biotech, came up on the 2 to 100 club, making new highs. Boom, cure for cirrhosis or something. Monster. I don't even know what cirrhosis is. 45%. The only reason because I looked it up, I was kind of just curious. I was like, hey, what the hell? That was a big move.
Well, you're curating. You're taking a list. It's not perfect. Any list you still have to work on top of it, but it makes sense. Shopify was once a $2 billion, $5 billion public.
Peloton, Zoom, DocuSign, monsters.
So you have to shop. It's like that. You have to, small fish become big fish. It's not an easy game, but our job as investors, and millennials are going to be really good at this. They don't want to passive invest in the S&P 500, right? They don't want free, right? Or they love free. They don't demand free. They demand to be educated. They demand to work on their own schedule because they have a phone. Time shifting is just how they grew up. We grew up with weed and Elvis Presley and the Stones, and they grew up with the fucking magic wand, right? And so the fact that my son can teach himself how to play golf with his friends and his iPhone, didn't have to read books and read magazines. I don't know. What, are we going to complain about that, or are we going to enjoy the fact that he's a better golfer than I ever was without taking any lessons?
Yeah.
Isn't that? And he's taken a few lessons, but like he hates it because he's like, Dad, I can film it. I can put it up against another person's swing. I can visual. You know what I mean?
You should have seen me with the snowplow the other day. I was on YouTube, how to turn on the snowplow, and it's like step by step, and I got it done.
Yeah.
And I was able to plow. How about that? Cuban kid plowing the snow. Thank you, YouTube.
So exactly. And so someone said, oh, I was interviewing Tiffany Zong, who's like a Gen Z whisperer, smart gal on Twitter, very smart gal. And I'm complaining about TikTok. She says, hey, why don't you go to YouTube and they'll show you how to make TikTok videos. So I yelled at Canute, fired Canute the second time that day, and here we are. So it's not about tech companies. It's how people are using these products to go faster. And so all we're going to have is these companies from 2 to 100 happen much faster, because who are they modeling? Everybody wants to be the next Shopify. Everybody wants to be Peloton. And they don't have to look back 20 years to look, oh, the story of Peloton. That's the fucking story of last year.
Last quarter.
Right? Last quarter. But this is not always going to happen, right? And on their way to 2 to 100, they pull back 60%. And that's normal. And we haven't seen that. Okay, well, the world's going to work like that again soon. But the idea is for people, it's not so much tech companies, but it's who understands how these products are going to be used to speed things up. This is all about speed. And the narrative, as Ben Hunt and I like to say, is right now about platforms. So if I'm going to talk about anything, it's like when I talk about Farfetch and Stitch Fix, those are platforms. Even though I hate that term, they allow people to build their business faster, right? That's no different than what books were or magazines were right before that, or a camera was to help people, And so they're just different tool sets that people are using. Now, the margins and the leverage that they help the consumer get are phenomenal. You want to not take risks, and you don't want to leave your house for 6 months, get a Peloton, get yourself in good shape,
You have one?
No, I've canceled. I've ordered it and canceled it. I still have the good weather, and if Peloton had delivered it to me under the timeline that I had signed up for, I probably would have accepted it. But once I started delaying it 30 days and 45 days, in the old days, I would have yelled and demanded something. And this time I just clicked, I'll come back, revisit it another time. That's kind of interesting. They didn't follow. And by the way, they didn't call me and say, was that a mistake? They just said, thank you.
They don't need you. They're doing just fine.
You need me. And there would be a time where I would say I would hold that against them for not closing me. But it's just, that's how high the demand. Now on Tesla, I found this very interesting. I went in to get a Tesla, and this is where technology, I think, it can be applied to Tesla. They've disrupted every part of the car buying process, software, hardware, experience, But I went
Why? Because they went direct to consumer?
It's genius. Just the fact that there's no pressure. But I will tell you that I went in and got one because it was so easy.
When did you get a Tesla? Recently?
So I was like, I want one. And I'm a terrible driver, and I drive a lot in Phoenix. So I went in to get one, breaking news. And it took like 3 minutes for me to put $100 down and have my Tesla ordered. That's fucking.
You went into what? Online?
No, I went into the store with my mask. And
what store?
A
Tesla, they have Tesla stores?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it's smart. Everybody will have a store.
Is it like an AT&T store, like a small?
Yeah. Except
there's no cars in it.
Except you don't come out with your ears steaming. You come out going, "Fuck, that was."
But there's no cars in there. It's not like a dealership.
There's a couple cars, one of each model.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you can just look at it and fling with the doors and spread some COVID on the chairs and
what
stuff.
color did you get?
So I got dark gray, very tinted black. It's all black and gray. It's like Batman.
Oh yeah.
It's like Batman. Well, all my body hair when I shave in the car won't show up. It's
nice.
Black on black.
Is there an automatic body hair shaver that comes with the Tesla?
No, but there should be. Manscaped should come with a Flowbee that cleans up your body hair. Like you should be able to just have a Flowbee underneath your Manscaped. It's a little idea. So, anyways, so what happens? I get the Tesla and I'm hemming and hawing. Like, should I lease it? Should I? But you ask 10 people, you get 10 different answers. But
are you an investor in Manscaped?
We were the first check. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's why I talk about it. Why else would I talk about it?
Well, you talk about a lot of inappropriate things.
I only talk about products that I've got skin in the game, skin and hair in the game. So he's a great founder. I mean, that company's killing it. So
their office is sick. All they do is play 90s hip hop the whole time, all day. I was like, now I'm have nice ping pong tables. I was like, this is sweet.
Have you been to the office in San Diego?
Yeah, I went with you.
Oh,
and Gary was there, remember?
Oh yeah. So I found what's interesting. The salesman continues to call me 2 weeks later as I hem and haw. So I mean, Peloton, no call. Tesla, 100K kind of order, they're after me still. What's the problem? Why haven't you clicked this? Do you want to leave?
It's a larger item.
So I'm saying, like, they're playing the game. They're playing they're not. It's not just like, even I have remorse or potential buyer's remorse from spending that kind of money.
What's got you scared going into the new year? What's keeping you up at night? Where do you think you're missing something, or where do you question yourself? Where's that big monkey wrench?
I think rates. Like, I mean, it's the only thing that I wake up that I don't fully understand. And then when the
why do you think? Because if rates go up, you think that's bad?
Yeah, I would think. I mean, not like drift up, but like I don't know what would make rates go up at this point, other than a change of policy or some.
Well, copper gold ratio. Well, it's not so much change of policy as it is to counter inflation. When you look at copper gold ratio making new highs, regional banks outperforming, all that's consistent with higher rates, and we're seeing higher rates. Money coming out of bonds, that's going to go into stocks. I think rates going higher is probably a good thing. I mean, it's not going to really get past 1.4. 1.4 on 10s. That's not.
That's what I'm saying. There's not a person who's smart that hasn't just said what you said and said, I can't see rates going past that number. But rates at 3 would change your opinion.
I guess. I don't know. I don't necessarily know that higher rates is bad for stocks.
You just asked me what would keep me up.
Oh, no, fair. Yeah, we're having the conversation. I'm not like fighting you on it. I just don't necessarily see how that's bad. Like if what's keeping you up is higher rates, I think higher rates comes with higher stocks.
What's keeping me up is my CrossFit. What in an honest answer, nothing's keeping me up about the market because I've enjoyed this run. I'm not fighting it. And yeah, I haven't fully participated in the joy of this, but I think I've given good advice to people. People are behaving, even though the media thinks people are like, it's a crazed, the responses I get are like, whoa. And, you know, like, thank you. It's like, okay, should I sell some? I don't see people like when 2017, when then the kids were laughing at us about their shit coins and how much money they made. I don't see that same behavior. You're seeing a little bit of it in SPACs. And for good reason. There's a reason people should be celebrating this. They finally have a chance to go alongside venture capitalists, right? And blow their brains out if they want, but take some risk and act like a venture capitalist. This is what people have been clamoring for. So to think this is just going to end tomorrow, you got to be nuts. So what I worry about is the party ending prematurely, which means like we're just getting used to this idea that millennials are and Gen Z are unbundling the S&P 500 and creating more equities for people to trade. And we're talking about stocks and we're thinking about preservation of capital. And if the rug gets pulled, it'll be a bummer because it's like a really nice.
Doesn't always? It always does.
I'm saying there's a lot of good momentum building up of smart things happening. And, you know, I'd like to see.
Dude, we just had one of the biggest crashes of all time. Like literally like yesterday.
I 100% agree. I was there, but it was an hour.
But it was severe, Howard, man.
Yeah,
and not to mention, I know that, you know, you're very US focused, and I get that. When you zoom out, Howard, emerging markets have done nothing for 12 years. Europe has done nothing for 20 years.
For good
you know,
reason.
like
for people clamoring to get into European markets, I would still argue you're not doing enough work on the ground at home.
I don't disagree, but my point is the world is not the Nasdaq 100. There's been a lot of pain all over the world for decades now. But we can now move on.
Because of the way I filter the market, I have not seen that pain.
Big time. Are you kidding me? Anything natural resources, anything out. You remember, because the U.S. has so much tech exposure.
Oil or copper or, you know, I get it. People are entitled to make their money in these things, but I filter the world to only see what's working. Like, right? Like, I'm all about investing for profit and joy, not misery and pain. So I'm only filtering for what could become. What is 2 that could become 100? That's just how I wake up every day. And that thesis, you've caught the bug, right? You're a technician, but you've also caught the bug of like, I'm a good technician, but I have an opinion about a company that I use every day that people misunderstand.
But I don't let that like just because I use it. I try, you know, like I use Twitter every day. Doesn't mean that I've been long stock the whole time. You know, I
say that as much as I've been talking about it, as much as I hate the company, everything about them, and it could be like this most serious sign of a bull market, that stock is going much higher. Like mucho higher. Like if you pull that up right now and you just go the sentiment about, oh, Trump lost and Trump, without Trump, Twitter's this. And dude, look at that chart. That's
the right space too. These social media stocks are all doing great. It's the right space. That helps. That's more important than anything else, I feel like.
Yeah. So I think payments, financial services, social, digital, and platforms. I don't use the word tech. I don't know, these companies are, you're right. Everybody's throwing around that word. So I agree.
Stop it. You hear that? Even Lindzon, you know, Mr. Tech Investor over here even says it's stupid.
And look at tech. Look at what that guy now is driving a car with no hands, no phone, an AirPod. That whole thing is an AirPod
and an iPhone.
And that's it. That's tech. That is the beauty. This is why the Nasdaq's at 13K. So I don't know what that was. That paint, this piece of art, which is a beautiful piece of art, was done and probably cost me $1,000. It's probably worth 50 grand. But I mean, this piece, limited by Rourke, was probably, I forget, because it was the swimsuit issue of Sports Illustrated, one of the first ones. So probably 90s. So if you think about how complicated driving was back then versus today, and we're driving, and there's just Tesla happening now.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to copy that model.
When are we getting the chip? When am I going to be able to put a chip inside me?
I have one. We talked about it. The AirPods pretty much.
The AirPods, the chip. But when am I getting a chip, like in my arm or my leg or something?
You need to have an AirPod.
How many years? Go. How many years?
There's no years. I'm not doing that.
Come on. When does JC get a chip? A random dude get the chip?
It'll be biotech related, not technology related. It'll be like for reading disease, like some
Right.
kind of virus. Like
When am I getting the chip?
Within 10 years.
Within 10 years, personal guarantee, JC's got a chip.
At worst, it controls your Roomba. You just go, and the Roomba goes to the left.
And you're getting one too, right?
Yeah, I'm first in line for that over a
Yeah?
vaccine. Yeah, you get me a Roomba in my body, a little twitch, and then versus, fighting the vaccine, I'm all about the Roomba body control.
It's like the modern version of the lights. What is that? Clap on, clap off, right?
Clap on, clap off. The clapper.
I'm going to be the human clapper.
All right, I love it. All right, Lindzon. Stop calling everything tech. Right?
No tech.
So good. I'm OG, overly grateful for the chance to kill the beat, bro. Cain and Abel ain't trying to lay low, peep the shine, comfortable in my own